Okay, hello, hello. Hi, Petra. Hi, dear LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Welcome to my first live event of this year. I'm Julia Singh. I'm coach and facilitator on a mission to help people and companies have conversations that unite and transform. And I'm coming from a background of facilitation, conversation salons with inspiring people in my network. And now I'm bringing them to corporate life. And one of the ideas for me to grow into it even more is to connect with inspiring people who already are working in this area of organizational transformation. And today I am very happy to be joined by
Mhm.
amazing Petra Salaric. Thank you so much for making the time.
Yeah, thank you, Julia, for organizing this. I'm very happy to be here, and my first entrance to 2026 is, as I said, it's the best way is with a conversation. So, hi everyone. My name is Petra. I'm a designer, researcher, activist, and a founder of PS Taboo, the first consultancy in the world that specializes in taboos. So, I help people, organizations, and individuals by creating a safe space and tools with which we can tackle the unspoken taboos for our health and well-being.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm so happy to have you today because I believe most of people spend the most of their time when they're not sleeping, working, and conversations that we have with our colleagues shape so much for our
Mhm.
well-being and culture and progress. And it is very, very important to know how to deal with topics which are more sensitive, because it's always easy to be nice and have comfortable conversations, but
Mhm.
sometimes leaning into comfort can have a very high cost. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today. We
Mhm.
will be here roughly 30 minutes. So whoever is joining live, please, yeah, tell us where do you come from, type live. If you're watching replay later, you are also very, very welcome to be engaged. We will look through all the comments and answer even at a later date. So we invite everyone to be very actively involved. So if you have
Mhm.
your question, if you have your own perspective, please write it in comments. We will also do our best to look at them and to involve you as much as possible. Yeah,
Mhm.
already we have Yashvadan to attend. Perfect.
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
welcome, welcome. So on this
Mhm.
note, Petra,
Mhm.
out of all topics, why taboos?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question because it also kind of connects to what you mentioned. As I mentioned, I was an activist, so I realized quite later in hindsight, as it happens in life, that most of the topics that I dealt with were actually taboos because I was always curious about how we function as humans, how we function as societies. And by being an activist, that meant that I was dealing with topics that weren't, let's say, easy to approach or easy to just infiltrate in a conversation. And I always wanted to help the society or make this world a better place. But how I got more into this space from design, because I'm a designer by degree, into the work was exactly what you mentioned. We spend most of our time at work with our work colleagues, thinking about work or working. And I quickly realized that the workplace is exactly where we have the most amount of our masks. And so a lot of questions came to me when people heard that I'm working on taboos. They started asking me, how do I approach this topic? How do we deal with this? So that's sort of how it got me to it. Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, maybe let us first agree on definitions, because this
Yeah.
word taboo is something that will catch your attention and stop you in your tracks. At the same time,
Hmm.
it may mean different things for different people and also in different context. Taboo at work might not be taboo somewhere else. For me, it is
Hmm.
something that is surrounded by shame or fear. And I'm very, very curious what taboo specifically at workplace do you observe, like what it is for you?
Yeah, so taboo by definition is a social or a religious custom. So it's a custom directed by a specific society or the context where we are, and how we treat, or it sort of forbids association with a specific person, place, object, action, relationship, or event. So it is quite broad in that. So because the manifestation of taboos is quite broad, so it can be, as I mentioned, with a specific person. In a lot of places, speaking, opening up your sexual orientation can be difficult, or an action such as abuse. When often when it happens, we don't speak about it, so that's an action. Event, we all know that many wars in many organizations are forbidden to be spoken about. um, Yes, yeah. Then a relationship such as interreligious or same-sex as well can be prevented. An object, specific object. I know for a lot of women who are here, they know that they don't openly show that they're taking a pad to the bathroom. So yeah, so taboo is, as I mentioned, it's a custom. It is different from stigma. A lot of people confuse it with stigma. So stigma is a certain emotion or a feeling that is more surrounded by a taboo. And it's exactly as you mentioned. In the workplace, we have stronger stigma about certain topics, whereas we maybe don't have while we are at the bar drinking with our friends. So I hope that a bit clarifies it. If it doesn't, I will very gladly comment later in the chat
Yeah,
to
well,
make it
thank you.
clear.
Yes. Thank you so much, Petra. And I see there is already quite an action in our comments. We have,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Eva joining from live, Andre live from Bratislava, Andrea from Dubrovnik, Eva
Yes.
from Slovakia. So yes, welcome all.
Hello,
If
hello.
yes, if you have your thoughts to what are the taboos you have observed, maybe in
Mm-hmm,
not in your current workplace, but before, yeah, feel
mm-hmm,
free to share to help us all get a little bit fuller picture of the reality,
mm-hmm,
because we have insights in some of the teams, but of course not all. And I believe even reading comments can be
mm-hmm,
insightful and value for some of us. So yeah, please get engaged. And um, how do you feel? How can organization sense when basically these topics become a problem? Because of
mm-hmm,
course we all have these nuances. Maybe it's indeed
mm-hmm.
okay to keep it private, also especially people who maybe have higher level of self-awareness. I know, okay, now I have this like not very good state. If I open my mouth now, it will kind of like better to wait to
Yeah,
inhalate. So how do you
yeah.
know when taboo becomes a burden, and
Mm,
what are those topics that you observe right now in the high functioning?
mm. Yeah, that's a great question because often I see for a lot of people talking about, we need to break all the taboos. That is almost impossible because a lot of taboos are also there to sort of protect a certain dynamic, right? They're also there to maybe protect people who don't want to talk about certain things, who maybe it would re-traumatize them. But the right time to open up certain taboos is where is, as research shows, it's when it becomes a problem for you. So when it becomes a problem for a specific individual, has a direct influence on their health and well-being, or a culture and dynamic in relationships. We spoke about just before the call about those rotten apples. So certain people who can clearly dysfunction and create a disruption inside an organization, and these manifestations are never super clear. They're always this sort of, as we talked about, a very specific feeling. We can see some maybe irritation coming up in certain people. We can see tension, or we can see, as they say in the English, certain conversations happening next to the water cooler more than they have before, or like project dynamics with certain projects maybe not working. And why? Because we didn't maybe speak about certain topics. So it's really being, and this is of course very dependent on individuals being high attuned and being having that emotional intelligence on maybe how to deal with that or when to approach the manager or HR about it, but also HR and leadership having their, eyes, not just eyes, but also different type of eyes, the emotional eyes, to see when certain issues are felt, and let's try to uncover in a very effective way, but also I would say sensitively cautious and conscious way. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And do you feel that these taboos, um, they are manifesting in avoiding certain conversations throughout all types of conversation, for example, in
Hmm.
team meetings or in one-on-one or in conversations between teams? Is it like, if it happens, then it basically addresses all
Yeah.
organization, or it would be just one way?
I would say that with taboos in general, there is, like I always say, we have this expression in creation, like you have fingers in everything. So meaning like it's almost like a web. One web will be the first line of the web, and then the others will be a bit further down, but there will be some sort of like this ripple consequence. So yeah, like we have, of course, that taboos influence things in a very intense way for certain elements, but for some it doesn't. But what I always say, like, it's not just about avoiding conversations. One of the most impactful actually things is when we don't even consider certain topics. So for example, one of the tools that I use is a taboo quiz, where people in a very simplistic way, they analyze relationships with different types of taboos. And what we often realize is that the conversations that we feel uncomfortable to talk about, we somewhat have an information about it. But then there's a bunch of other topics that we don't even consider. So, for example, people would not think the fact that defecation and urination in general is actually one of the biggest problems in the world, because we don't speak about poop. We don't speak about pee, but actually, the fact that we don't talk about it means that we don't have systems for it, and we lose more lives globally to this element than like in wars combined, because we don't speak about poop, because we don't consider it, and we don't get into those seats, those decision making seats. We can't even consider it because we don't open it. So I would say that yes, we have avoidance, we have tension or irritation when it really becomes, but then we have full on silence and oblivion about certain topics. Like we have examples about, like, I work mostly on the topics of women's health, but we have interviews, for example, with Barack Obama talking about menstruation, and he's like, oh, I don't even think about menstruation, so I don't even know how many pads or tampons women need. And I mean, this is a man who lives in a house with three women, so how did that happen? Because he was like, oh, I considered menstruation to be a woman's thing, so I don't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that that
And
is
I
big
also,
to kind of,
yeah,
you cannot tackle something that you are not aware of, and
mm,
usually actually certain like rotten apples, as you were saying, that yeah, it takes
yeah,
everyone to build trust, but one person can break it, and
yeah,
usually this person is not aware of
yeah,
creating this certain dynamic, and then there
yeah,
would be people around who notice it, that yes,
mm,
something is off, and then um, no one
yeah,
is properly equipped. How do
yeah,
you go about it? And in my work and also observation working in companies as employees, it really also matters where this person is up in the hierarchy,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
have a feeling that the higher this person may be, the more difficult up to impossible this could be to resolve. So I
yeah,
would be curious from your experience, um, how what is important basically to start creating this safety in
mm,
general, of course, and then
mm,
in the specific case, if maybe this manager does
mm.
not have this awareness.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
example.
that's a great question. And also, I actually wanted to ask you as well and comment because the culture element is massive. So, currently, I am building a sensibilization strategy to create some like to support organizations in actually even initiating that conversation. We need time before it. And one of the big elements that I often use is exactly cultural dimensions because it is stereotypical. Of course, it's stereotypical, but at least it informs us to know what is this social fabric that exists in one specific country. But also, what is the problem is that today we have multicultural companies and organizations, and we know exactly that, especially when a startup starts scaling and you bring more people in and you bring more people in. And I'm also curious for, your context where you're Berlin based, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's Berlin is massive. You have, so many cultures, and which means these different worldviews are placed in one element, right? And one important thing when we consider taboos is that we're not talking about this isolated topic. What we're exactly talking about is this entire worldview that was built around this topic. And that worldview considers, religion, it considers, as you mentioned, hierarchy. So who has the decision making power? Who has the power to create the dynamics? Who has the power to say what is right and what is wrong, right? And you have this massive difference just between Croatia and Austria. Austria, which is so near, like on the dynamics between the hierarchy is literally like the opposite. So yeah, so the culture is a very, very big thing. But yes, as we know, psychological safety is built top down, because basically the leaders say like the leaders should be examples of what is. Or my favorite definition of company culture was from Brian Chesky from Airbnb that says it directs how and what people say when the manager leaves the room. It's
Yes.
like it tells you this is how we drive basically. And so if the and also it everything comes down to individual setting, meaning that if the leader doesn't think that a certain topic is good or is appropriate for the work, that is what is going to direct down. But of course, there are instances where teams decide the nature for themselves, and then they're like, oh, we work together, we are against our boss, but then what you equally have is frustration. So neither of the two is good. And it would be, I think it's also society now is changing and understanding that yes, like topics of taboos, which are the biggest influencers to human and societal health and well-being, should not be just simply, oh, let's check, the well-being strategy, and let's bring, for International Women's Day, let's talk about gender equality. For Menstruation Day or Menopause Day, let's talk about this, and then let's just leave it. No, because what is starting to happen, especially with younger generations, they will require that. They do look at how does the company deal with well-being, how does the company deal with health. It became almost like a prerequisite for younger organizations to think about, among other things, sustainability. And there is also a lot of taboos around sustainability and climate health. But like I do think that the society is changing in that way.
I
Yeah.
have a feeling it is also not only about cultural differences and these types of taboos, but also at meta level, experience of the whole work processes changing with AI.
Mm,
And it
mm,
does not mean that everything became slower and we have this computer slave who is doing. No, the
mm,
expectation is that everyone delivers much higher, where you needed 2 weeks before, now you have three
mm,
hours. And everyone is overwhelmed, including the leaders,
mm,
and just
mm.
saying that it might be too much or I do not know how to address it. And also
Yeah.
potentially this difference, something is at work is maybe beyond my current capacity,
Mm,
and on top I have something private at home, and maybe like I story I tell myself, everyone has something private at home, so I just don't talk about it, but I cannot turn it off at 9 a.m. And
Yeah.
this also kind of like puts more pressure. No one has time to slow down and reflect. Everyone has
Mm,
to deliver 10 times more. That this also becomes kind of like this taboo, which
mm.
still would sooner or later have a human cost of overwhelm and burnout.
Yeah, yeah, and it's exactly what you mentioned. You know, have you seen this trend now happening on social media, like 2016?
Yes.
Yes, and I went to check like what is it about, and basically what it's I don't know if you saw, but like what it says is that 2016 was the year when things were good, because like slowly after that, you know, we started having COVID, we started having this, yeah. So like the society in the last decade changed insanely quick, and the amount of information, the amount of responsibilities that we have is overwhelming. And what does that have as a consequence? Yes, burnout, but basically mental health,
Yeah.
like as the aspect of mental health. Yeah.
And I feel also another aspect is that we spend more and more time with computers, and
Mm,
we l- lose the ability to communicate properly. Sometimes, funny
mm,
enough, I have a feeling that ChatGPT has more empathy and compassion than some
mm,
people with whom I interact in
mm,
real life. And this is what also makes me so connected with my work, because I
yeah.
know we are still humans, and maybe if the
Mm,
nature of our work is now completely reimagined, we are
mm,
still emotional beings who are sometimes irrational and who still want to be loved and feel seen and belong. And there will
mm,
be those moments where there is no ChatGPT smooth filter between us. And this is where it becomes very, very important to know how to be in these moments of like vulnerability. And it may be when I feel not strong enough, or it may be that exactly I'm angry with you. But
mm,
this combination between like safety, self-awareness, that the way how I feel and how I show up will influence the dynamic and conversation and the whole impact. And
mm,
helping people to work on this both sides, this
mm.
self-leadership, inner leadership, and communication, that would help them to become better leaders, because in better leaders we do not need to be better than everyone. We just want to help everyone to be the best versions of themselves and create this shared vision that we all work with each other towards the same goals.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it also makes me think like the work that you do about bringing people to the table, creating dialogue. I can also imagine that, especially as you said, like, yes, today we spend most of our time. There's like statistics that says that we spend about 2 to 4 hours communicating online and 1 to 3 face to face. And I can imagine that the work that you do with creating dialogues and events is probably the evenings that stay in people's heads like prominent throughout the year. Because today, um, you know, when we're sitting down, when we are even speaking to people face to face, we are constantly thinking about like there's so much programming at the back of our heads, like what happened yesterday, what happened today, where do I need to go, you know, after? And I just came back from like a 10-day meditation in silence where I had no digital devices. And Julia, I swear, when I got out, I saw my friend and we were sitting down and I started to notice, oh my God, he has a freckle here. He has a mole here that I didn't notice. He has like this skin like tone differently. Like I required 10 days for my brain to be like, you know, like slow down to be actually able to fully present with people in the given moment. And that's what we lose today. We lose the presence. And with that, with losing presence, we lose human connection, we lose proper human connection, we lose empathy, ability to empathize. Like there are plenty of studies to show that even with kids like as early as 9 years of age, they lose due to digital devices, they were able to identify only four emotions on a human face. And they were taking their phones for like 4 days. And by the end of those 4 days, they were able to identify 13 emotions on a human face. Like we need those moments of simple conversations, like just present conversations. And that can do magic, that can do from working on belonging, that can work on bringing things to the table, the topics that people need. Like they can be taboos, they don't have to be taboos, but I think it's so important for companies to simply recognize, not just like, let's do team building. What does that mean? What does it mean team building? Team building on what? What are you connecting on? On like humanity, on pure humanity of our differences, especially today with the globalized world that we have. We are becoming more and more polarized. And so that is what my mission is to bring people to simply to sit with what we were talking about, sit with the discomfort and not strive away from it.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. I resonate with every word. And uh, in my mind, it is also about helping people to reframe. Like, as we
Mm,
say, choose your heart and also choose your fear.
mm,
So much is being left unsaid because of certain fear of consequences and
mm,
punishment, or I believe my word doesn't matter, and they all decided it for themselves. And that we are afraid of this, but what if we think what would be the cost of this silence and the stalled
mm,
innovation, the people who just show up but they are not fully there? And
mm,
reframe the fear, choose the other one, and then yes, ask like what can we do. So like as
mm,
our conversation like slowly comes to the last part, my question is, what are certain easy steps that you would
mm,
recommend people? I can imagine there are a couple of people who are people leaders who really can
mm.
come and suddenly start really like setting the tone. So my one invitation for you is maybe one advice for exactly the proper leaders on paper. And then I believe all of us are also leaders, regardless of our
Of our
titles.
life.
So how to be an advice of
Yeah.
someone who is a part of a team?
Mm, yeah, so I would definitely, there is one main question that I would put to whatever position you are, and it is connected to stay with discomfort, and simply be curious and be curious as to where does that discomfort come from. So the very typical question that that all of the experts on different topics say, if you feel the discomfort, try to go back and think about how was this topic approached in your childhood, and also what you and I spoke off air is, if you don't like someone, be curious. So as Lincoln mentioned, I don't like someone, that simply means I need to get to know them better, because there is more that connects us than it separates us. So if and there is also other approaches, like from Gabor Mate, speaking about the when you don't like someone, just ask questions, try to realize their worldview, and you will see more than often it will invite the gray because the world is predominantly gray, it's not black or white, and it will help you as well to grow and to emotionally regulate yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
seeking to understand and not judge,
Yeah.
and also uh, knowing that the way how I can phrase something, I can say, you did this and you are like wrong all over the time or late, where speaking in I messages and avoiding
Mm,
generalizations, and also telling how it makes you feel and offering a solution. I think these are
mm,
also big game changers that would change this whole vibration and
mm.
not create this uh, state which will probably cause defensiveness on other
Yeah.
side, but
Yeah.
more trying to connect with this human side, with empathic side of us, And
Mm.
yeah, now I looked at our comments, and it is
Woo.
wonderful to see that there is a lot of engagement. And Andrea asked our opinion. I would be interested in your perspective on a situation I experienced. At the
Mhm.
exact moment I found out I had been offered a new job, I also learned that my father had passed away. I'm very, very sorry to hear it. My
Yeah.
employer showed understanding and encouraged me to take as much time as I needed before starting work, which truly meant a lot to me.
Mm.
However, once I did start working, despite feeling a certain level of support, it became clear that most people did not know how to relate to me or how to behave in
Mm.
such situation. I am
Yeah.
speaking specifically about creation context. While
Mm.
this was very specific and unique situation for me personally, it also became clear that my superiors were not equipped or aware of how to
Mm.
handle circumstances like this.
Mm.
Thank
Oh,
you so
that's a
much for
big
the
one.
question.
Yeah. And for the trust for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, the topic of death is a very big one. Surprisingly, it is actually officially how I started working because one organization asked me to do a workshop because they noticed they didn't know how to approach it with their colleague. I think that regarding the topic of death is personally it's also one that I find for myself very uncomfortable because I know that people approach everything from their own space and from their own learning. And it is also something regarding, and I'm sure that many people will relate that support that we want, we rarely get, right? We rarely get the support that we would hope to have. And now it is also on the aspect, I would say, of you, Andrea, as to um, if you have identified with what you would specifically like or how you would like to talk about it, and are you able to ask for it? And are you able to ask for it, and who are you able to ask it from? So if you have a good relationship with your manager, you can, once you, and this is something that I always recommend, and it was actually an advice from a friend to say, uh, to go and ask for your desire or your need once you feel comfortable with whatever the result may come. And this is, I think, similarly as to what I also advise, and what I know that Joe Dispenza does is to do some sort of, you might know, Julia, is like different forms of meditations or journaling, where you get to basically prepare your nervous system for different results that may happen. If meditation is not something that you like, I simply journaling and thinking about what may happen, how would I approach that, and then going and saying, like, what also helps me is to see that this element of work is something that is not just for me. You're basically then providing direction or support that some of your colleagues may have. So if this is not a role that you would like, which is completely legitimate, if you don't want to be exposing yourself to that degree, I fully understand that. But if you are the person who has a bit of a proactive state, it might help you as a bit of a fuel to go and to discuss with the person in charge and say, I would like to talk to you about something. I noticed that a lot of people feel uncomfortable to talk about the fact that I had my father passing, and to be very honest, no judgment, but it made me feel XYZ. I would like to talk about if there is something that we can do inside the company to support people in the future. I don't know, Julia, that is my take. Would you like to, what is your view or comment?
Yeah, I first tried to imagine myself if I would be Andrea's boss, and I maybe also have no
Mm,
experience,
mm,
and we all exactly operate from assumptions and certain ways how these conversations or topics have been handled in our past. And maybe if it was stonewalling, just taking distance because you don't know how to react, this is not the best way, so that it would feel honest to just have the private conversation and ask how you're feeling, how can we
mm,
support you best. But this is like, okay, Andrea is in her shoes, she's not in the shoes of her
mm,
boss. And here I totally support the ideas that you have to consider either exactly talking one-on-one when you realize
mm,
what is there, what you would like maybe to change or to implement, or if you would love to make it bigger, to
mm.
make some kind of workshop, because obviously this topic, death, it is relevant for all of us. Sooner or
Yeah.
later everyone will be impacted by loss of a loved ones, and the same as certain health issues like cancer, it also
Mm,
becomes more and more widespread, unfortunately. And some
mm,
companies, they may have certain groups, and still it would be a little bit silo of affected people, but how to educate
mm,
everyone. And I think this would be like helpful, exactly telling people who may never had to do anything with this situation, just okay, as if we all do the
mm.
training when our office will catch fire, so that
Yeah.
we all know, okay, these are the typical things and this is
Yeah.
what needs to be done. So we can, I always inspire people to grow into the leader which you want to have. So that of course it is not always possible
Yeah.
to have those perfect bosses. No one is perfect. Everyone is somehow overwhelmed, so that understanding this
Mm,
compassion, we also spoke of, Mike, about importance of compassion and self-compassion, and just
yeah.
understanding that maybe someone's reaction, it was not all about me. Maybe there is something else,
Mm,
and especially there is this like, don't say ghosting, but sometimes you write something and you um, will receive no response, and then
mm,
depending on how we were maybe treated as children, we will either feel, oh my god,
mm,
this person doesn't like me, and then we have one
mm.
story, one emotional response with all the
Yeah.
consequences, or we can say, oh, they're probably so busy, then I will ask another
Mm,
follow-up, so it's not related to our like diminished self-worth. Just kind of like remembering of not making assumptions, and
yeah.
also understanding that like our emotional state is directly depending on the stories that we tell ourselves, and most of those stories are still some kind of a fiction. So kind of
Mm,
in best interest for ourselves and for communication with others is to
mm.
actually take a moment and find the most empowering story, and then find those words. I think we can
Yeah.
talk about this forever. We
Yeah.
even just stretch the surface. How do we start those conversations?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it will be, are there any, I don't know, maybe books or maybe some like YouTube channels where you say, okay, if those people are super hot on tech, okay, I have this difficult conversation coming, or I don't know how to start difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Where do I go if I need my to know the answer in 30 minutes?
I would say to me, because yeah, unfortunately, regarding books, we don't have a lot. There is one book that I personally like. It's called Radical Candor from Kim Scott, that exactly speaks about this positive intention and that we do need to have those conversations. And it is more for leadership teams, but for leaders, but it does speak about the importance of breaching those conversations, and with a positive regard. Something that I will also say to Andrea, because she is speaking about creation context, is where people like to brush things underneath the carpet, as in many other cultures. But also, I know that often here the comment was, you should be the one to open it so that they don't hurt you in some ways. And what I did get from some people is that they like to open up conversations at a coffee. And we do know that we do everything at a coffee, but that putting it in another context made it too serious. So other things is like regarding the channels, there is on YouTube, on my profile. So PS Taboo on YouTube, there is as well recordings of different taboo talks. And I am actually starting a bit of a platform, an MVP very soon, where we will have dedicated space and experts to speak about all of the taboos in our organizing. So that is what comes to my mind. Me filling up the gap with a lack of tools how to have those conversations. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you that you are here with your work, normalizing difficult conversations, helping people with the tools and awareness, how to make them happen. Because, yeah, I feel that taboo is actually like not specifically a topic, it is all the fear around it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not about pushing this honesty, it is about creating safety. And this
Mm.
is like so important, and we can talk when it is safe, we can talk about everything. So
Mm.
yeah, and this is like where this bridge starts. So thanks a lot. My like yeah, my answer to this question is there is YouTube channel that I love a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
this guy has a book already. I feel he is a communication supernova. He in English his name is Jefferson Fisher. I
Mm-hmm.
will drop a link to his channel in our chat. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he was a lawyer who started to record videos in his car. And sometimes it's really like 1 minute video, sometimes 15 minutes, very, very uh, practical advice to be direct
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time kind and leading with intention. Where do I want to end? So it's not about us fighting our perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
but learning and ending in a good place together. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I truly, truly believe that uh, any hard conversation is an opportunity for more alignment and unity, and also
Mm-hmm.
this courage to take the mask and speak from the heart and show this vulnerability is actually that creates this human connection. And right now we need it more than ever. So yeah, this is like my biggest like takeaway to nurture the values of
Mm-hmm.
authenticity, courage, curiosity, and compassion, because somewhere between them, there will be this space to have these conversations which unite and transform. So, thank you very much, Petra. Thank you very much to
Mm-hmm.
everyone who joined us live. Looking forward to hearing more comments, reflection stories. Thank you, thank you. And yes, all the best for you and your teams.
Mm-hmm.
Until the next time.
Bye.